Hi, Sarah. I have a
Hey,
question for you.
you have a question?
Yeah. Um, who was the first witch that you watched? Like
Yeah,
all
I
time.
mean, it's got to be The Craft and then Willow and Tara. I mean, I was aware of other witches. Like, I'd seen the Angelica Houston film The Witches and I Dream of Jeannie exist, but I wasn't like really into the witchcraft element of those.
I dream of
You?
Jean. um, I was talking with Kai about it, and after talking about a lot of them, like Samantha and Sabrina, I settled on Alex Mack. The Secret World of Alex Mack.
It's not witchcraft. Like, I get it. It's important. It's a magical otherness.
Magical otherness. She's like a mutant. I get it.
I get
And
it. I think
special power, like a witch. She doesn't have spells. I get that. It's
and
all
I
like
think
concentration.
like what makes the craft in Buffy and Charmed different is the idea or the notion, the turning real witchcraft or Wiccan paganism into otherness that then has superpowers is different than like X-Men or other super entities. Hey everybody. We could probably talk about that debate forever, but on this episode of Gay2k, we're going to talk about how we are the weirdos and we love the film The Craft from 1996, and just that in general as a awakening or gateway to queer analogy.
Weariness.
Um, so I think before we talk about the craft itself, I do think it's kind of important to kind of talk about 90s culture. There's some things about this movie that are very just so 90s. It's almost not Y2K enough in that regard. It's very the film The Craft is very counterculture, I would say. It has the soundtrack is very alternative and the soundtrack plays such a huge part in the film. But The kind of idea that we don't really see in other films or other stories until The Craft, girls, teenage girls empowering themselves and choosing a coven and joining together instead of being alone in their special abilities. Um, and that's different than even Alex Mack's journey. So yeah, for me especially, The Craft is the quintessential queer awakening gateway to this analogy of otherness.
I'm hearing the covenness of it, community, because there are some witch stories that don't create community. And even if they do, it's not, it's like yeah. Oh, yeah, that's neat. I like that.
And I guess there were other teen witch movies in the 80s, but I just don't think it had the same kind of um, marginalized teens coming together kind of vibe. Um, for those of you listeners who aren't familiar, the 1996 film The Craft is a movie about a group of girls in California. One is a new girl. Her name is Sarah Bailey, played by Robin Tooney, and she joins this new school and quickly is brought into, quickly though reluctantly, I will say, brought into the coven of these other teenage witches, and they form bonds, and eventually they call upon a great power, which is a fictional deity because the team that made this film very much did not want to use a real deity, um, to offend anybody or to make anybody uncomfortable, which I think is a good call. The deity is called Manon, um, and they invoke his spirit, and then a lot of consequences of the witchcraft start happening around them, and essentially the coven falls apart by the end of the film. We'll talk a little bit more about some details that come up, but that is the arc of the film. New girl joins a witchcraft coven, discovers that with magical abilities, with powers, with any type of performative act, you're going to get consequences. Um, but yeah, the cast, I already named Robin Tooney. The cast is amazing, and I think the
Yeah,
cast is so Y2K for me. Rachel True, who plays Rochelle, I saw a clip on YouTube of her calling herself like the token alterna black girl of the 90s. She was in this, and she was also in Half Baked, and yeah, that definitely kind of holds place. I think she might be eventually replaced by Rosario Dawson in the landscape, which is horrible. There should be room for more than one alterna
Black Girl. Yeah.
black girl, but no. Um, Alex, who's your favorite of the cast?
um, I Nev Campbell's character Bonnie, I resonated with that so much. Just feeling ugly and wanting to be hot, wanting so bad to act out physically. Because obviously I'm not a girl with like a skin condition that's like terrible and horrible. But for me, without thinking about it, just as a hormonal teenager who feels the way he feels, I felt just the closetedness and feeling ugly because or not the norm, and
Mm-hmm.
wanting to be above and beyond the norm. I wasn't asking to like make my hair blonde like Robin Tooney did, but or brown eyes or green eyes, but actually no, I there were times that I was like, no, contacts would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Green eyes or
Yeah.
blue huge in our pantheon of male attractiveness in the 90s.
Um, Frizura Balk, who plays Nancy, also kind of the main antagonist of the film because um, it's clear from the beginning of the film that Sarah, Robin Tooney's character, has some innate witchcraft, and Nancy um, is jealous of that instantly. And I think that relationship too between them. I want to talk more about Fizura Balk in a second, but I don't want to forget this thought that that struggle within your own coven, within your own group of friends, that identity politics of the new girl who's cooler or hotter or more powerful or more successful in whatever reason like that. As a new girl, that animosity, I mean, I never, quite had a full on Nancy, but I've definitely in various situations been the new girl in a group of friends or at a workplace or at a high school. I think, we have a whole episode, Mean Girls versus High School Musical, where we talk about our new girl struggles. And I think we can definitely see that
Yeah.
struggle reflected in Sarah, and even those people who were supposed to be your allies, right? As a queer person, um, they're allies until they're not sometimes,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So a while ago, I was talking about actors that are like creepy, sexy. The Skarsgård that plays Pennywise, and Jamie Campbell Bower that is Vecna in Stranger Things. And I posed to you, Alex, is Reserve Balk creepy sexy? And you were basically like, no. And I disagree still.
When you frame it that way, I just don't think I want to call anybody creepy. But do I think
You're
she
right.
I think that she could seduce me to get alone with me and possibly kill me, or I'll think that she might kill me? Yeah, I think she could kill me.
Yeah, okay, that's a better dangerous. Um,
If she wanted to, or if I did her wrong.
yeah, I do think yeah, not her whole career, but definitely the character of Nancy is the epitome of 90s creepy, sexy, alternative, weird.
Yeah. I think of Robin Tooney the same way, but that's because she was bald for most of.
Robin Tooney, get yourself a girl that can do both, right? I mean, the difference in the characters between who she plays in Empire Records and um, Sarah and The Craft are, yeah, she's flexed a lot of range in that short amount of time. Did you see that in that one article that I sent you that she's wearing a wig the whole time because she had just filmed Empire Records? So that hair is not her hair, which is pretty funny. Um,
And
other
I only caught it in the magical hair change color when they're doing the glamour spell. That's the only time that I caught that it was a wig. That was like, how is Robin Tooney just perfect? No matter what's happening.
Skeet Ulrich, who we talked about for Scream, is in this film. This is a year after Scream, so they were filmed pretty close together. Peak Skeet Ulrich era, I guess. And then oh my gosh, I just blanked out on her name. Christine
Christine Taylor.
Christine Taylor. Yes,
Evil blonde girl.
dude, some of her lines,
I
I
I
we're
wanted to
not
smack.
gonna repeat them.
Oh,
They're so vile. Um, definitely she.
I watched this on television, so it never showed that. So when I finally watched it streaming a couple years back, I'm still shocked. I get sweats, and I'm like, I didn't get why they were picking on you because they obviously without some of those lines, it's just a mean girl laughing and snickering and never getting involved with you, never
No.
saying a thing directly to you. And I was like, yeah, I guess girls are mean. They do sometimes don't talk to you. But then I was like, oh,
Yeah, I read that Andrew Fleming was really trying for a PG-13, you know, uh, PG-13 rating so that the film could get seen by the audience that he wanted it to see, which was, people our age, and then we could be empowered to. But nope, it got an R rating, and we still managed to watch it in various pieces and chunks.
yeah,
And while that word isn't a slur that is commonly used, it's like I don't know, maybe I whatever. Anyways, go watch the movie. It's a weird choice of words, and it gets the point across just fine. So we talked about Christine Taylor and Skeet Ulrich's characters a little bit.
oh,
Christine, oh yeah, go ahead.
oh, back to the word choice. I was like, I it was familiar to me because I went to a couple of private schools um, up until like the third grade, I think. And each of those schools had old encyclopedias where it would use that word as a scientific word. And they are in a private school. So, like, I know she's older than me as a character,
Yeah, you're
but
right. It's even more likely that antiquated term would be in some
in her private school literature.
dictionary. Yeah, encyclopedia. Oh my gosh. Um, so as we see Sarah get to the school, we talked about Christine Taylor's character as an antagonist, but mostly just for Rochelle, who's on the swim team with her. And as Alex pointed out, she like snickers and talks bad behind her back when the coach is around, to distract her from being a better gymnast. And then when they're in the locker room, an even more brutal onslaught of derogatory comments about her ethnicity um, occur. But that character is not a antagonist to Sarah, the main character, at all. That's just like a side story. Um, And Rochelle is amazing in this way because um like she is the only black person in this entire film. And sure, they're at their private school, so like we don't know whatever's happening, but
In my private school time, there was one black girl and me, and then
mhm.
one time there was another brown girl, and it was just literally the three of us. And people were like, "Hey, you guys should hang out." The three of us. The teacher
That's
just trying to
funny.
help. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Texas.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean that's a money dynamic, but I mean she's she does have a hilarious line when they've after they've invoked Manon and everybody's getting their like wishes. They're talking about how Nancy's getting upset because Nancy's wish hasn't come true yet. And Rochelle goes, Bonnie says, like, what
She
does she wish for? And Rochelle goes, something about she doesn't
she
want to be white trash anymore. And Rochelle's comment is, I told her, like, what can she expect? She's white. Like,
and I think that's really why she is the most upset. Rochelle is funny for that, but I think it's true. Nancy Downs has the hardest life out of everyone. She's not the token black girl, but she probably is the poorest girl.
yeah,
Uh,
she has to be super smart because she's absolutely there on some type of scholarship. She's not there on any, yeah.
yeah.
So Nancy is a very interesting character. And we don't really see a whole lot of Frisura Balk after the craft. We see her in what, The Water Boy a few years later, and that's really the only thing I can like think of off the top of my head that she's been in.
She could kill me in that too. I know that she played a sweetheart in that, but I think they implied she was.
She played a very forward, a very assertive young lady.
Yeah.
Um, so we talked about yeah, okay. So let's go back to Skeet Ulrich and kind of
His little brat pack of made of Breckenmeyer playing Mitt, and I guess some other guy
some other guy who we don't see in anything else. Yeah.
ever again. But yeah, I recognize Breckenmeyer because he was such a cutie. I hated that he was being so mean.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to the knoll.
Yeah, I do think it's weird. Anytime I see Breckenmeyer, like he's automatically a stoner character to me. And I do think it's weird then that like Chris is this character that's like painted as like the top of the social hierarchy with like he's like the popular jock guy, but then like his best friends are like these comedic sidekicks. You know, like I'm it
No
follows
other.
the formula of 90s movies, but like it looks weird.
Yeah, yeah. I never thought about it too much. You're right. He doesn't
Yeah.
have buddies. Yeah, that he's on the football team is kind of like not as important as he's
Yeah,
bored.
you're right. And while he's on the football team, his priorities seem to be partying and sleeping with girls on the weekends, which that's probably why they're all friends.
Ooh, you're right. Ooh. Yeah, just three frat boys that aren't even in college yet. Like
Yes.
there were those kids. They were also on the football team, but they weren't like they were just
Mhm.
hot. They look like Abercrombie models. They know who they are.
Um, so witchcraft as it's depicted in this film, we get some really interesting um, moments of uh, what I like to think of as moments that I then tried to replicate for the rest of my life, or at least the rest of my young life. um, the the just from the jump, after they spend one day with Sarah, they're ready to blood bound her into their coven, which is
Call,
one of the queerest things that
call down
I've
the watch.
ever.
Ah, that's so wild.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're
Like
getting some.
right away they're like, "Okay, we're going to go sit on this hill and we're going to bleed into a cup and all drink from it and then give each other kisses while making making each other swear to be loyal to the coven."
To be friends
That's
forever.
yes, to be friends forever. Or it is better that you rush upon this blade than enter this circle with fear in your heart. How do you enter? With perfect love and perfect trust.
Big love and perfect trust. Please don't stab me.
um,
What does that remind you of? Like, in
it
in
didn't
in
remind me of anything. It was aspirational, Alex. I was watching it and I was like, how do I make that happen? How do
yeah,
I find friends that are going to be my friends for life that want to sit on hills and drink wine? Maybe not the blood sacrifice part of it all, but
maybe not. Yeah,
talking
sit on.
about life, sitting on hills, talking about our hopes and dreams and how we can help accomplish them together. And then, maybe some friendly kissing. I don't know. I was like 10 or 11, but it looked like fun. Just as much fun. No, nothing is just as much fun as light as a feather, stiff as a board. If you were a millennial girl and you didn't do light as a feather, stiff as a board at a slumber party, what were you doing with your slumber parties? What were you? I don't know. You didn't have a gay kid there to try and convince you to do it.
So if you did, now you know.
So you're like, wait, why did
Wait, how
Tiffany always want to play light as a feather, stiff as a board?
oh yeah, Amber always started that. Or was it Judy?
Mm.
That's good.
But so the light as a feather, stiff as a board scene in the movie is one of the only times that they use CGI because they have to live somebody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's actually levitating. I mean, she's not. There's a table underneath her, and it's green. But most of the movie is filmed with like practical effects. But I love everything about that scene because they start off talking about it, Alex. And but they're talking about something else entirely. And Sarah's like, "Have you ever played that game?" Oh, somebody says to Rachel that, or somebody says to Rochelle that she's light as a feather, or to Bonnie. And
Yeah.
then Sarah's like, "Have you ever played that game?" And then they're talking about how to do it. Sarah's like, "You just take two fingers and you put it under." And Nancy's like, "You take your fingers and you put it under where?" Um,
Yeah.
and then the mom comes in and catches them while they're doing it. And Bonnie pushes her mom out, and her mom's like, "Are you girls doing drugs?"
And
No, just gay witchcraft stuff. Don't worry about it, mom.
we're just fingering our lightest friend. Uh, it's wild.
Gosh, so much fun. And
Innocent.
go ahead. Yeah. There is some stuff that's not fun about the movie, right? And the kind of how the scenes of the wishes kind of unravel for the girls. Sarah's wish is that the boy, Chris, um, loves her and he becomes like obsessively in love with her, culminating in a sexual assault moment. And then, well, a sexual assault moment happens, but then it actually culminates in Nancy pretending to be her, seducing him and throwing him out the window. Which, you know what? Like, as a teen girl, I was like, oh no. As like a young kid, I was like, Yeah, sorry, it cut you off. What were you saying, Alex?
I definitely wanted him to get hit. I didn't like him. I didn't like him fooling around and messing with their hearts. I really liked Nancy's speech, even though they did all like the twisted "I'm crazy" thing. I At that time I didn't think of. I had never realized anyone does that. I thought that was just dark magic meant to scare him and push him out the window.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah, they
also I
frame.
died.
Sorry, go ahead. What'd you say?
I'm not sure I knew he died because again I watched it on television, so I'm not sure if they
Yeah,
made it.
they say later that they killed him, but you don't really see him in that moment. And yeah, rewatch now that you say that, I'm like, would he have died? Like, he stumbles slowly backwards out of a second story of a home. Like, I feel like he could have survived that fall. Like,
He's a big strong boy.
you would think people survive worse all the time.
Yeah, I've met people who have completely metal hips, like their
Mm-hmm.
whole is metal. Yeah,
Um, what else was I gonna say before I was talking about? Oh, right. So that's Sarah's wish coming true and then
going bad.
going bad. Um, we don't really see a consequence for Bonnie's um spell, which was to take away her scars. We see a little flash of what could happen, that like when Sarah's playing with magic and they're attacking her, she like makes them see. She makes Rochelle and Bonnie see like Rochelle's hair falling out and all scabby head, and then Bonnie's got scars everywhere and not just her back and legs.
Their work coming back to them times three.
Right. But we don't actually see any like moment of Bonnie actually thinking that that was a negative event in her life. She doesn't really get the consequences of that at
I don't
all.
think her scars ever even come back. Like spells
Oh.
over, it's gone. And when they lose magic, I don't think she has it again. But
Mm-hmm.
I can't really tell. I should look that in.
No, I don't think they ever mentioned that. And for Rochelle, the consequences are um, her having a conscience when she's seeing Christine Taylor's character crying on the floor. Um, because she had wished that that girl that was bullying her, her wish was that her hair fell out. Um, and they make these wishes as they then um, they make the wishes and then they summon Minot. Sorry, I'm doing the thing where I need to recap everything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what order those things happen in. They
It had,
happen.
they were doing it in in the presence of summoning Minot. They asked for what they wanted from him when he was
Mm-hmm.
going to, and yeah, then they do channel like huge powers a little bit later, but like
Mm-hmm.
the first time they're like, oh Minot, please grant us wishes. So they've
Mm-hmm.
done that already. I think that's where your confusion is.
And then yeah, and then later when they invoke the spirit and they call upon the guardians of the various watchtowers, which yes, I also a thing that I would actually, I've only ever recreated that once. I've thought about it, but I only ever had four friends that would do it with me once, and Alex was there that time. So
And you knew all the words. I was like, damn, girl,
I still
you're
actually I
smart.
don't know. Hail to the guardians of the watchtowers of the north. No, I don't know them anymore because they each have like they have the location and they have a little bit about like
The
god of sea and earth and fire and whatever. I don't remember which one is which anymore,
our
but I did.
emotion, our heat, or our passion, and whatever. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Really, like legit. When I heard that the first time, I was like, I have never heard of this person before, and I had to look it up. At that time, the internet was scarce, but there was Borders, and there
Mm-hmm.
was there was a Barnes and Noble at the time in Omaha, But yeah, I could just go over there, look through their section, find nothing, and be like, well, I'm here. Keep
Right.
researching.
Right. And I think that's an important thing to talk about. Like, this movie inspired queer activity in me, but it also inspired me to explore like other like spirituality and to look into paganism for real. And then realizing that paganism is just and Wiccanism is just like attuning oneself to nature and like calming the fuck down is like was like, wow, that's cool. That's not what I was looking for. I wanted superpowers. You know, when I was like 12 looking into it or whatever, right? I was like, I want to levitate pencils.
Huge pastime. And it also got me out of the house to go to the library and go to the bookstores and read not just this, but also poetry and queer literature and erotic literature if that was available. But like,
That one
that's
half shelf section of Barnes and Noble.
one good thing about the Bush era that I benefited.
Yeah. Oh man. What scenes or moments from the movie like particularly resonate with you? You already kind of talked about Bonnie. Is there any other?
I I love Bonnie's story when she's with her mom and she's in that surgery, hoping that that miracle will happen, and it does. And as a Catholic raised child, I wanted miracles and I wanted tender moments like that where um, things could be relieved. And there aren't a lot of Christian movies at that time that were like, here's a miracle. Miracles just get to happen. It was always this
Mm.
historical aspect. There aren't miracles for today. And that's changed. There are a lot more big cinema movies where a little faith goes a long way. Um, but those are still not my stories. And this could be. Um, at that time, it was very clear, like in my youth groups and from television messaging at the time, I knew as a young Catholic boy that I was going to hell anyways. So any opportunity to not go to hell, to be loved by a greater being, um, I was open to those options because I had, or at that time, already felt deep spirituality, or an impression of deep spirituality, which is at its root feeling like you belong in the universe. And as you grow up, as I grew up, um, that disconnect became wider, just because of all the shame um, that was part of the messaging about not just homosexuality, but tenderness as a male, um, wanting to dance or wanting to be creative, um, wanting things that I wanted to be that were specifically coming from me and having
Mm.
those things, pushed, adjusted, altered every day. Not just my interests, but also like this little hand motion, not an okay thing in Texas. I know
Mm.
now, like a lot of people are more effective when they use hand signs. It just depends on how you do
Yeah,
it.
I talk a lot with my hands, so I
And
can.
what's more witchy than talking with your hands? There was a lot of alignment there. Um, I think, and I'm getting louder. I think what I think impressed me the most about the movie wasn't the special effects, although the fight scenes are really fucking cool and all those illusions then. I love a badass Grand Witch finale. But it was the walking through the school moment that were the hottest chicks. They did it in Mean
Mm.
Girls, but I felt it in this movie. I don't know if it's because the angle they allowed them to just laugh. I think they had two slow walks.
Dude. And
Nipples.
it's the nipples. No, I wasn't gonna say it's the nipples. I was
I,
gonna say it's the music. The
yeah.
song. I'm gonna play some of it. Because honestly, I did a deep dive into the soundtrack recently, and a lot of it is covers. How Soon Is Now by Love Spud Love is a cover of Morrissey's How Soon Is Now, which is then later co-opted into the Charmed theme, but it came from this movie. So
Yep.
that's a direct impact of this movie is this the Charmed theme. Aaron Spelling knew what he was doing. He said,
Yeah.
people like these witch girls. Let's make a TV show.
I can have these rights.
um,
I'm sad Tori was never in that.
Not even a cameo.
No.
Dang. So this song is a cover of a Car song, but sung by the band Letters to Cleo.
Love Letters to Cleo.
And it is hella gay when it's sung by a woman.
Forget about you. Check it out.
They're like walking in slow motion, and their desecrated rosary is bouncing around, and so are other things. And
Yeah. Like their hair.
Like their hair.
Bonnie looks good. She's so happy.
It's so good. Anyways, check out the soundtrack. It's a lot of fun. It's like 80% covers, but it's so alt 90s in its vibe.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Even some of the what would not fit in today's music space is that new age sound. That the wind instruments with the weird wood percussion, that was definitely a vibe in the 90s, and that is so nostalgia for me. That is such that is such a millennial 90s young sound. Like, oh, it's time to deep breathe and center ourselves. Like that's what that stuff is, and like dance.
Yeah, I feel like, and I like, it's great that we have access to a lot of different music, and we get music through all kinds of ways, and that happens in the 2000s. But before that, like as like a young kid, like movies for me were a huge gateway. Like soundtracks were such a big deal. I love the Clueless soundtrack for that same reason. Um,
Oh, good.
just kind of like things that,
And Things I Hate About You.
yeah, just things that I couldn't get on the radio, but were sounds of my youth, right? And I think I definitely owned this soundtrack and listened to it like crazy for, I don't know, two.
It was a mixtape from Hollywood. Yeah, it's a beautiful. It was a beautiful soundtrack. I've been listening to it a lot the last 2 years. I don't know why it showed up. Oh, I met someone that got me into like uh early 90s, 80s pop music,
Mm.
and listening to that sound, and like I try to make a playlist, and then I think it was Bells, Books, and Candles from the
Mm.
soundtrack showed up on like this music search. And I'm like, oh my gosh, all this stuff. Sarah, I need to watch The Craft. We talk about it sometime. Go watch it. I promise you, it's gayer than you remember.
Yeah. I mean, and I remember it being pretty gay, but definitely watching it as an adult, it's like, wow. Um, but it also it really kicked off like a resurgence of witchcraft in pop culture. I know, Alex, you and I have mentioned practical magic to each other a couple of times. I don't think that movie would have happened without this movie.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, you're right. I think you're right about that. Because magic in the early mid 90s was very much like um, angels and stuff. There was a very big Christian narrative when it came to any forces of magic, or it was Merlin, which is also its own Christian
Mm.
waspy thing, literally. um, so yeah, like otherwise it was the bad girl, and they were mean. And practical magic, yeah, definitely a
Yeah,
lot.
practical magic is very different than the craft because it's not, alternative culture, counterculture.
it's still an underdog, I'm a good girl romance, girl next door story.
Right. And as I said that out loud, I'm like, well, no, Nicole Kidman's character was a little more alterna counterculture.
She was,
Uh,
I always forget about that. She was a wild child.
mhm. Which you like to talk about the ants and how you're still
Yeah.
convinced despite whatever. Yeah, go ahead and talk about.
I need the names because I never remember the names. Cast of Practical Magic. Thank you for reminding me. So in general, I don't know why they need to complicate it with these little subtleties, but since the matriarch died of a broken heart or whatever, there have been always two daughters, one with black hair, one with red hair. They're sisters. I thought they were twins, but they're just sisters, right? Um, so Sally Owens and Gillian Owens are the daughters of a witch who died, and their sisters are played by Stockard Channing, Aunt Frances or Aunt Fran Owens, who had dark hair, and oh, where is it? Go sideways. Diane Keaton, who plays Aunt Jet. They have has black hair, one has red hair. They're three sisters this time. Why? Why does it have to be three sisters? Let them be sisters in Satan or whatever their
Yeah.
situation.
They don't have to be blood related, right? I think that is like a thing that the craft does, that the things that are is it the things that are its successor strays away from, and not completely, but a lot of the, like, even Sabrina the Teenage Witch that was happening kind of simultaneously as the craft, like she's a witch by blood, and
Family.
practical magic they're witches by blood. um we get a witch by craft in Buffy, of course. We have a whole episode about Willow and Tara, so we won't deep dive into that. Um, but yeah, it is interesting, and I wonder if some of that isn't to then subvert the allegory of queerness that kind of exists with witchcraft.
Because Sarah is a witch by blood. It's it's implied or like it's told by another witch.
Yeah, that her powers, or at least are amplified because her mother was also a witch. Yes, so it's not that it.
She was turning pencils before she
Yeah,
found witchcraft. She's twisting those pencils.
yeah, yeah. So there is, yeah, in the movie The Craft, it's not like blood can't make you a
Yeah,
witch, but it's not, blood
but
isn't the only way. Yeah.
she's the catalyst, and she was the one. She was the one that shared her power and amplified the whole craft circle, which is important to talk about. The importance of allyship and the importance of allyship from people who are highly privileged, who come from that old blood money. It's important to have those people, um, and for those people to be allies. They're very necessary in our capitalist society, but also a society that's like about generational wealth and stuff like that. I don't know. There's an allegory there that I found that was, as an adult, makes a lot more sense. Um,
Well, and it goes to that support structure when we talked about how Nancy has so little. Sarah has had some personal dark times after her mother dies. There's self harm that she comes across, and obviously she's suffered. And all of these girls have some level of suffering in their lives.
constant.
Um, but Nancy, like Sarah has a parent who has a nice job, and they have although it's old and has some literal leaking. Um, it's a nice home that she moves into, and like Nancy, and she does have this place of power that comes natural, and she can then infuse this group who, in Nancy's case, have been trying really, really hard to make it, right? Like she's been trying and trying and trying again to get herself to that place that she wants to be. And she can't get there without the support of somebody who is established or has more power than she has.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a good point for sure.
Another way that this comes about is they're always stealing from that store, those three girls,
Yeah.
and that wouldn't even cross your mind. Um, that
Yeah,
wouldn't
she can't even. Yeah, she's not even there for it. She's like, I don't have money, but then the next scene she's paying for the stuff.
same scenes. Like, I guess there's this $25 that my dad gives me in case I'm in danger every day. My emergency money, I'll just use like a quarter of it. And real life that happens, and that's a blessing. But yeah, there's just this other story going on. Oh, Aunt Jan, Aunt Fran, and Aunt Jet are gay together. That's my story. We kind of got off tangent there.
Yeah,
They love
so
each other. Let them love each other. That's it.
yeah, why can't they be gay together?
They'd be gay. That'd make me so happy.
Um,
Than just two sisters who just like can't get along with anybody else. That seems weird.
speaking
Fran
of speaking even more so of sister, which is um how big was Charmed for you in your life?
um, I'd say it was the freshest thing you could get because it was a weekly show. Sometimes they play it double like back to back on like a special day of the week or whatever. They're definitely like it was just constantly available. And
Yeah,
unlike
TNT, the network TNT picked it, the syndication rates up, and it would play, the early seasons would play two episodes at like 6 and 7. So you could watch it while you were getting ready for school. And then it was on again in the afternoon when you would be home from school.
after
Uh,
school,
yeah.
anyway, gonna get those teen
That show
witches.
got weird, man. Like
It
they
did.
opened like a school at some point in time and like
I was just talking to Kai about this. It's once they became executive producers and writers, I guess, it was like, hey, just let me wear some really beautiful clothing and make a lot of money advertising for that company or whatever deals were going on. They went the Friends model where like the last 5 seasons or 4 seasons, everyone in Friends is super hot and looks 10 years younger. um, yeah, so they were gods, they were demons, they were doing all sorts of shit, man. Like they were werewolves together. I don't know, they're probably vampires together. They had a whole fairy episode. They did everything. And that series changed from a sincere story about helping women overcome sexual assault by men in a male dominated world. Um, and I remember because I was following online discussions and just listening to creeping on online conversations about womanhood and strength and coming together and supporting one another and believing one another. It moved from that to we're wealthy, hot women. And we're going to have a romantic story where we do some special effects, which
yeah,
was.
because yeah, the whole first season was they were all struggling in their jobs. They had come together and they'd been together in this house for the first time because and the first time in their adult lives because their grandmother died. Is that the
Yeah.
yeah, and the first story, the first season, the first 3 seasons, it's really about them rediscovering how to cohabitate. It's about them rediscovering how to cohabitate as family and what that means with these additional pressures and how they still get to be themselves and how they each fall in love with the wrong person at some point in time. And those people each have like Prue's involved with a cop, Piper's with a white lighter, which is another magical entity, and Phoebe is with a demon. And it's just like those, like all
Or
of
been
those things are actual antagonistic in some way to their mission to help other women and help other witches. And the first 3 seasons are very well done, and then it's like,
well, we want to keep on making money and we're gonna employ ourselves, which is awesome. That
yeah,
is cool. Um, Also, those first couple of seasons, they had bands come in that I never heard of. Like they were doing that whole same thing with Buffy. Like they would have bands come in. Like
Yeah.
what?
But yes, the 90s built-in bar band so that they could spotlight up and coming artists is such a funny trope.
It's so cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't remember this, but all that used to do that too.
Well, yeah, all that is the SNL format, right? So the musical guest
Oh, I
is.
guess so. It was SNL for kids. That's funny.
Oh wait, did I just bring something new to your attention?
Yeah, yeah. So for those of you guys that don't know, I lived in Florida for 1 year, and that's free Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon just comes with cable. It's your Fox, it's your PBS, and there's Nickelodeon. Um, yeah, and then you leave and you're like, oh, I guess that never happened anymore. Because that's a satellite, and we didn't have that. And it wasn't even like a I would say that Nickelodeon wasn't something that everybody watched either, outside of my time in Florida. So yeah, I never really thought about all that again.
As an adult, I am finding that most of the world is divided into two camps when it comes to cable. Like, did you watch the Disney Channel original movies or did you watch Nickelodeon? And I'm mostly a Nickelodeon kid. Like, I've seen some of the Disney Channel original movies, like via other people introducing them to me, but like Keenan and Kel and all that were definitely more of my
Talking about
wheelhouse.
television and that camp, Charmed was present more. I think Sabrina the Teenage Witch on TGIF, um, probably changed my understanding of family as far as it comes to like magic and like these big secrets and stuff like that. But again, I wasn't a teenager at the time, but that was probably second or equally as influential because it was on TGIF. But once TGIF died, or I guess I got older, it wasn't available. It wasn't always on. Like, Charmed was all the time. More magical than that. Maybe it was Xena Warrior Princess. She lived in a world of magic.
Yeah, no closet identity for Xena though. She's very much out
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
world. It's queer for other reasons, but um yeah, so the one thing that we haven't talked about with all of this and witchcraft and or super powered beings is the closet element of the keeping a secret, keeping each other's secrets. We see that a lot in the craft. We talked about the light as a feather stiff as a board scene where her mom comes in and accuses them of smoking drugs because that's more that's more commonplace than them doing. But in general, it's so some of the scenes are so teenagery when they're actually talking about some like really heavy stuff. And how real is that? Because like even after Bonnie's wish comes true and her mom are living in that penthouse, her mom is like trying to talk with them and she just like giggles and shuts the door so that then they can talk about witchcraft or gay things, but so that her parent isn't around. And of course no teenager 16, 17 wants their parent to be hanging out anyways, but it's just so casual the way that they switch from talking about this thing that is a major secret that causes harm to other people
Mm-hmm.
and just living their normal life. And I think that we see that with Buffy. We see that with Charmed. We see that a lot repeated in other media for the rest of forever.
Yeah.
But I think the way that Charm handled it, and I don't know if it was because the director was a gay man, and so the subtleness is kind of just baked into um, how he approaches those topics. But it just seems realistic, even
Yeah.
though they're talking about witchcraft. They could be talking about any secret that they share, So.
I was definitely baked in the romance stories because or at least the cast, definitely the casting choices also. Like those dudes were so hot. And not even for like being visually, physically attractive, just like that was gay. That was so gay. Just pretty boys that are fairly nonviolent until it's necessary for the story. It's pretty great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There weren't other story there weren't other shows that had so many male romantic leads as get I guess what I'm saying. Like that's pretty gay for me. Um, all the other shows, a girl there would be one woman with a storyline, and that one woman was allowed one romantic situation at a time, or it was a one episode situation like Rory's two boys interacting with each other. Oh no, like yeah. I guess that would have been the other show, a different, a different sort of family.
Yeah, Rory doesn't have any secrets from Lorelai.
She is so straight.
She's so straight. Oh, damn. We didn't talk about the the downfall of a power lesbian in Nancy.
Yeah,
I think it's hard to talk about because the movie frames her as such a villain, and we've talked about it. All of the things that she does ultimately come back to protecting her power, including killing Chris because he brings harm to Sarah, who is part of the coven.
yeah,
And even though there might be some other jealousies and other things going on, for Nancy, it's always about getting closer to the known, getting closer to Wiccanism, being more in tune with her powers. Um, and I think that goes to some of the. I think sometimes we see some corruption happen, right? And I don't want to say like you can get too deep in gay culture and lose yourself because I don't think it's not like a one-to-one parallel. But I
you're right.
think sometimes when you're struggling to be the we've talked about this before, the perfect gay, right? What does that perfect gay look like in which scenario? And for Nancy, the allegory is witchcraft, but for others, it's, partying at bars and doing all the drugs so that you can continue to be the best, most active gay and know everybody at the bar and hang out and outlast everybody. I mean, all of those situations still unfold today.
Yeah,
Um,
the pressure in around that time for homosexuals was also like just looking good. Like the drinking had been. We know now, like as adults, we know the drinking pressure has always been there. To meet at the bars, to drink, to be a patron, to belong. Your fee is
mhm.
a couple of drinks or dollars with the drag shows. Um, but there was at that time in our lives, there was also America's Next Top Model. Um, Bravo was coming out, and it felt fresh to have a queer message, like a queer owned, very queer. But
Mm-hmm.
all of it was very much like, hey, you need to be a particular look and have particular money and know particular things about, at least for
Yeah.
men.
No, yeah, and it's true. I mean, that's for gay men, I'm sure it's big. Maybe it's less big, but I don't think so. I think in the 2000s it was very big for lesbians to feel body image shame because women in pop culture in general were being body shamed by, yes, things like America's Next Top Model, but even in Buffy, even in Charmed, even in this magical realm where these women are imbued with powers beyond anything, they are still making fun of each other's weight. They're still
Yeah,
focused on these menial things, and it's like you literally are above this. It's like but that's not how it works really when I mean, we're all still going to be humans, and no matter how much success we have, there's always going to be things that are our hangups or our downfalls about the culture, that we're not as good, that imposter syndrome comes back. So
And it was, I remember thinking about it not too long ago, like inclusion where? Like the media was including me now, but what was I being included to? And this kind of helped me understand, like I was being included with um, the media's message of suffering for women, which is like, well, I don't. Would I
yeah.
accept now? Would I want to accept that now if I had been this maturity level then? I wonder.
And I've had guests on this podcast that, Alex, you've always been really in touch with the women's movement and really kind of felt a kinship to women that I don't think all gay men, not all gay men that have been guests on this podcast, have felt comfortable with. I mean, when I was talking with Matt, we were talking about how, he wanted to separate himself from that culture. And John Paul even talks about that a little bit. So I do think there are varying degrees, just like there are varying degrees for
Yeah.
my, women guests or our bisexual guests and our trans guests. There are lots of different varieties, but I know that in our friendship, the kinship to these stories of otherness clicked very fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that happens without you being very open-minded about how the struggle for you as a gay man relates to the struggles that women in society face, and you have privilege, sure, but there are
Yeah.
also things that you relate to.
Yeah.
And there are times that I don't relate to women the way that some of these messaging uh, relates. I mean, it's interesting as I get older, like how much I don't want to be like, I don't care what I look like, because that's false. But
I want to so bad, but I want to be Bonnie. I've already admitted
that teenage pressure of looking good all the time and being constantly performing some type of image was so much higher and so much more intense in the teen years and in the college years for me. Um, and then maybe it's because I got married. I don't know. But shortly after, what other people thought of my appearance was not as important in my mid 20s.
I like that you're bringing up appearance. Every Magic Girl show has some sort of transformation scene. Um, I have the most recent one I can think of is Sabrina, the chilling adventures of Sabrina. She's just zipping her clothes in the mirror and just changing, which was probably something in the magazine, but I remember Melissa Joan Hart doing that in Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Mm-hmm.
And these girls do it with the glamour that we had just talked about, with changing our hair and our eyes and stuff like that. And um, Fruka Balk transforming and pretending to be Sarah. Nancy pretending to be Sarah with like full body transformations.
Mm-hmm.
What I liked about this series was that the magic they used was very much for themselves as teenagers. And that's not something you see in those other witch portrayals. Everyone is fighting the forces of evil.
Except for in the movie The Craft. They're just fighting the forces of teenagedom. Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. That's a little factoid that I hadn't thought about.
Practical magic to some extent, but that's like they're private. They're these witch blood families. They're so private about their magical use. Like, don't use it in front of the humans. They'll burn you. Don't be gay in front of the normies. They'll burn you. That's the Thora line that always hit with me. Additionally, there was at that time this new age movement, which included a lot of Wicca, included a lot of resurgence and re-editing of old information. The old books from the spiritualist movement were still there. The books about transcendentalism from the 60s and 70s is still there, and that all gets combined and condensed into these modern almanacs or guides to witchcraft that would have been available. And a lot of it YA, a lot of it aimed towards women. You're going to see a lot of magenta pink books or purple books with gold uh, calligraphy and like some vague symbols of womanhood, um, or like super vegetal symbols that all look like
Lavender. Don't forget the color lavender.
lavender, gold, blues. It was a really cool thing, and they would teach you about the power of the rainbow, which was the seven chakras, uh, the
Yeah.
power of casting a circle and how you do that, how you protect yourself against common negativity, and how you uphold some tenets and laws about sisterhood or allyship.
Right.
And specifically, like this is dedicated towards women. Anything about men was like uh, very biological. Here for this, but other than that, yeah, we get this from the goddess. And eventually, there'd be more books about witchcraft for men and all that stuff. But there was definitely a trope that magic plus male is bad. Magic plus female, pure, neutral, green, basically vaping versus smoking, which turns out to be a lie, but that was the messaging in the
Yeah.
90s. Spirituality, non-Christian spirituality.
And yeah, you're right about the accessibility. And just like I'm thinking about like walking around downtown Omaha and like there are like multiple new agey spiritual places where you can find,
Yeah.
right next to the rainbow flags are the crystals, right? Like it all kind of coalesces in this real life otherness that was reflected in, younger youth for me on TV. But like, because when I was in Florida, I would have had no idea where to find new age Wiccan shop. And then, as a teen in Omaha, I lived in a downtown area and could walk to literally multiple new
New Be-
age.
what's that? What it was called?
Yeah,
New Horizons.
something. And then the Lotus is the other one that I'm thinking
Lotus.
of, which is beautiful little.
And things skew now towards yoga and like wellness and that sort of vibe. I don't know if we'll have another magical resurgence. It's just like that's just something that occurs when at special times, in special political times where things are cool, things are getting chill, and there's a lot of money around for shit you don't need. Crystals,
I
candles.
mean, there are lots of people that are keeping new age spiritually alive. There,
Absolutely.
yeah.
But you don't need to pay $60 for a single candle. And if you buy a $50 book, it'll tell you that. Like you can do the whole magic
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Yeah. It's important to bring this up because that is in the craft. Like their gay bar is a witch's new age shop, and she's
Yeah.
out there. She's doing the whole. That she only uses natural deodorant. That she's a vegan. She has a legacy kombucha from
Mm-hmm.
overseas that she doesn't tell anybody about because it's not hip yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she does a lot of wheatgrass, and she has some friends from out of town who bring this from the commune. And yeah, she's probably not even like no one knows that shop's there. Probably she probably doesn't pay any taxes for real.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm saying a lot of mean things about that lovely character. I love her, and I imagine a lot about her. I want to know what her world is like. I want that sequel. By the way, Craft the Legacy, watch it. It's good. It's worth it. It does a lot of the things that they couldn't do in the 90s because people were afraid and it wouldn't make money. They do a lot of that there. It's more queer, it's more masculine friendly, um, it's trans open, inclusive. It's great, and those little, I shouldn't demonize them, but those young women are amazing in their roles, and they do a great job. I think they do too much, not the actors, but the writing.
Mm.
Um, there's a lot going on. There's
Yeah,
a
it's
lot.
not a very well critically received film, but I mean, that doesn't mean it isn't fun to watch.
It's fun to watch, and it's a stepping stone of it's a part of the queer legacy, as far as I'm
Yes,
concerned.
correct.
and 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 we need to cherish it. We don't need to love it. I'm not telling people to change the Rotten Tomatoes over, but yeah, it's good. Check it out. Support.
Do we want to rate the film for gay and Y2K?
I have to say, when it comes to gay, I brought this up feeling like it was probably way gayer than I thought. And then I let it rest a while, and I was like, oh, I'm probably going to come down to like it being a one on the gay. But after this conversation, it's a two at best. But I'm always nice.
Yeah, I mean, even with the allegory and all of the ways in which they kind of blend or skirt around, touching and kissing, while using witchcraft, I think you're right. I think it's still a two on the gay. Um,
It's in the broom closet still.
yes. The Y2K is probably also a two because they don't even mention it being near the millennium. But they don't say anything about anything. The film feels very 90s because of the soundtrack and the counterculture. Um, and that leads us into 2000s, but it's not explicitly very 2000 Y2K.
Yeah, we didn't need to be alternative when we had patriotism to bind us. Like it was.
Either you love America or get out of this country. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it was. That really did ruin the any person who fit the alternative vibe was then the queerest person I knew in the
Mm-hmm.
2000s. You didn't stick around with um, wearing, dressing a certain way and singing a certain song and fighting a certain fight, and all that come together as if I don't talk about their queerness, I'm talking about their alternative look. It's unless you get to live with them and be with them and do life with them. I'm talking about people who made money performing, who made money selling art, and
Mm-hmm.
um, being the literature liberal type of person that I knew,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I needed them. I needed them. For me, it is um, a five on the gate on the Y2K part because
It's just that formative for you. I get
yeah,
that. Yeah.
it helped me find my people faster. Period. And for
Yes.
because the people looked and behaved similarly enough, that is Y2K.
Any other thoughts that you want to share with our listeners about the craft?
No.
Okay.
How
All
about
right,
you?
that's it. That's all we
Oh,
have to say.
that's it.
Bye.
Bye, buddies.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to Gay2k. We'll catch you soon, and stay tuned for more queer allegory, magical otherness, good times this next couple of episodes. Take care, friends.